Traders, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm doing another update on HCMC and exactly what is going on with the stock. Now, if you watched the video yesterday, then we went over exactly the price action that happened today. It's almost like I got a crystal ball out, I rubbed it, I gave you the future, and I told you this is where the stock will drop. And then you can kind of guess what happened from there. So let's go over what happened with the chart. I actually want to go over a few comments that people left down below on why this stock should keep ripping and just to hodl. So let's go over all the content. Let's not waste any more time. Like, subscribe, do what you gotta do. Let's get to it. All right, so let's very quickly cover some of these comments. Now, I want to cover these specific comments because I believe this is a lot of what people have hanging on to hopes for when it comes to HCMC. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad stock. I'm not saying it's not going to go up eventually. I'm not saying anything like that. But what I am saying, I want to debunk some of these short-term theories because I believe most of you watching the video are interested in the short term. I will be covering this on the long term as well, so just know that as well. But this is primarily for the short term, and this is why I suspected we got rejected at that 35 marker, which we'll cover the charts here in a second. So the first thing I want to point out is going to be the HC upcoming catalyst, because this guy got mad that I said that there was really no catalyst coming out in the short term on HCMC, which I think I'm pretty correct. So let's cover what he's talking about. The 5th of May earnings. This is the only potential catalyst. One, I want to mention, I think their earnings will continue to not perform very well. They'll just be lackluster and kind of do nothing for the stock. That's just my personal opinion. They've never really performed after earnings, so I don't assume that'll change right now because nothing's really changed with the short-term business model. That's important to know. Number 2, the judge's response to dismiss PM motion. Now, you're going to notice that everything else this guy comments is going to be about the court case. Now, the court case is not going to get solved soon, in my opinion. Maybe a month, maybe 2 months, but that's not short-term. That's not May 3rd. That's not something to push the stock up right now. So again, when you're commenting down below, please make sure you're listening to the rhetoric and what I'm saying in the video, because when you comment things like this, it just sounds like you're not listening and it's a semi-ignorant. But I do want to post this because people are thinking, well, Tyler, this is the stuff going on, and people ask in the Discord as well. So I want to comment and say that this is why I believe it's not moving and why we get that rejection once again. So he's commenting all about this lawsuit that they have currently. It's worth mentioning that I don't think that this is reason to be bullish in the short term. One, this is already all priced in. We already had a major move in the beginning. I don't think you're going to get it priced in multiple times in multiple waves for the same news that hasn't even been proven bullish in the case yet, if that makes sense. Like, it hasn't been, the other company hasn't been faulted or been forced to pay fines. So this guy's commenting all about being paying fines, the vaping industry becoming a 30 billion industry, which there's negatives on the vaping industry as well, which he kind of doesn't really go into. HCMC buying back shares, that's actually really good, but he's saying using settlement money, which they haven't gotten yet. So these are all things to be actually going over, but there is some insider buying going on, which is really important to note. So that is actually a strong catalyst, but that isn't happening in the recent past. This has already happened long before. And then the one down here, and this is the one that I think most of you guys are remaining somewhat bullish on. The new news just came out last week that Food and Drug Administration wants to ban menthol cigarettes. Now, everyone knows this, and I believe this is going to be a pretty bullish catalyst for companies like HCMC and HCMC included. But it's important to know when things get legalized or get banned, it takes time. So this is not short term. Now you could be saying, Tyler, well, you could see buyers coming into the market right now. One, it's important to know that this happened last week, the beginning of last week, give or take, maybe Tuesday. So this should already be priced in as well. That's why I didn't think the buyers would come into May 3rd. And that's not why I would be buying the stock right now, you know, a week after the news. You don't buy a week after the news. You buy the rumor, you sell the news. That's traditionally the rule. So you don't really want to buy in, you know, a week later. That's not really smart. So I'm not doing this to rag on these people or anything like that. I'm more doing this to kind of educate everyone and kind of have a good educated conversation with myself, I guess, which is kind of a little bit on the depressing side when you think about it like that. But I hope you got something out of this little segment because it's important, and I like to see everyone's comments and views so I can cover them and potentially give it the best answer that I know possible. Now, it's possible that I'm wrong on some of these answers as well. So if you have any, you know, debunks or theories against these ideas that I'm posting out, please comment down below. Chances are I might bring it up, and I'll probably cross people's names out next time if that's something that you really want. I don't mind doing that as well. But anyways, these are just key points. And I think these were actually good statements, but they're not bullish in the short term. That's the difference. These are more long-term factors. Okay, so unfortunately, yesterday when I did the video, I had to use my iPhone. My son had my iPad, and things were iffy. But things look a little bit better when we're using the good old trusty iPad. Now, I did say that there was a high possibility we come to that 35-cent range. And what was the thesis for this? Well, when it comes to trading, if you've been on the channel for a while, I don't use the crazy indicators. I don't use the MACD, RSI, 44 EMA lines, the SMA, everything in their mama, and then to top it off with the Bollinger Bands. That's not what I do, because most of that stuff, it's just hearsay. It's just randomness, and you're praying that one of the indicators strikes and that it's going to be right. But what I do rely on is price action, and price action pretty much tells you where buyers are getting in and where buyers are getting out historically based on the chart. It's a fancy way of saying support and resistance. Now, I trade based on blocks. As you can see here, I have zones that I typically take my profits out in. So I won't ever target one specific spot, let's say 35 cents on the dot. Now I'll target about 33 to 36 cents, and that's an overall block of range where I can start to take my profits out on said stock. Now, when it came to this stock, I did mention on the dot 35 cent was where I see this going. And then if we do start to get really bullish and push past that, then you can consider buying back in potentially. But I see that being a pretty major resistance. And then as you can see from that last support line that we had right here, we actually topped off right there at a little bit above 35 cent, and we came crashing back down right at open. Now, we had a little bit more of a push in the pre-market, but like I always say, pre-market isn't too big of a deal. You want to see if when the market opens, can it hold that strength? And HCMC did not, and we're actually seeing a dump happening right now. Now, going into the next few days, I would typically like to take a big step back and watch what happens. Is Wall Street Bets and the Reddit groups getting upset? And I know I said Wall Street Bets when it comes to the stock, but I'm kind of categorizing all of Reddit as Wall Street Bets because that's really how they've developed their name, is that Reddit equals Wall Street Bets. But I'm under the understanding that there is a difference, so don't get mad and don't slander the name. So I do want to point that out. Now, I want to see how Reddit reacts as Reddit start dumping their money out, because I do believe most people that are buying these stocks are expecting quick ups and trying to get out immediately and trying to double their money as quickly as possible, and they're reading random DDs on Reddit. Now, DDs on Reddit can be good, but I recommend you fact check everything you read, see, and just overall absorb into your noggin. Now, HCMC, this is definitely looking like a pump and a dump. Okay. But I will have more updates coming out, and I will tell you if I start buying more. Now, if you've been on the channel, then you actually have the opportunity to buy when I actually marked that buy zone at about 10 cents overall. Well, 0.00010. So you did have that opportunity. That's where I marked it for the buy zone, and then overall you would have tripled your money potentially. But I do also want to point out the OBV is very topped off, as you can see down here. It looks like we're going to start plummeting, and then we also got that very hard rejection at that support, which is something you never want to see. Looking at HCMC, it's unfortunate what happened. Now, this is the dangers of trading based on Reddit and any other subreddits. This is the overall danger, because you typically get that big move up, and if you don't get out in time, you're caught and you're stuck with the stock, and now you're kind of lower than you were on Friday. So that is the dangers. We did hit that 35 price target that we had marked out for Friday. I hope you guys get something out of this. If you have any questions, please comment down below. Again, I will have more updates coming out in the coming days. I'll try to answer your questions as efficiently and as quickly as possible. Like, subscribe, do what you gotta do. Namaste.